call this Georgetown City Council meeting to order. First, let's have a word of silence. Thank you. I would ask Councilman Alonzo Allen if we lead within the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I want to welcome each of you to the May 20th special call council meeting. Council, Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher-Conway? Mrs. Hambrick? Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Showalter? Here. Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
You received the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Stone, second by Mr. Allen. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. You should have received in the council packet the check registry. Please show your hands if you have received it. Let the record reflect that everyone received it. At this time, we have public comments. We have 3 or 4 that want to speak. A reminder that this is 4 minutes. This will not be a question and answer. You can make your comments. Please be respectful of that 4-minute time limit. Madam Clerk will time you and let you know when you get close. And we ask that when it comes to that end of that 4 minutes, that you be respectful, and then you can be that and take your seat. At this time, we have Carla Pribble talk about the business park.
Hello. First time I've ever spoken in public, so won't be good at it. But I've been reading about the business park. We're going to partnership with maybe Richmond and Lexington. I don't think it's a good idea because Lexington can't even take care of their own stuff. They brought trash here and dumped it and then just didn't help out there when trouble came. So had to change over to Republic. They also would not take care of their residents on Lyle Road about the sewer problem. They didn't take care of that either. Scott County had to do it. So I don't think it's a good idea to partnership with them. It's going to be in Georgetown, in Scott County. We voted you all to be leaders and take care of it. We do not want Fayette County, Richmond, moving in and trying to take over, because Fayette County will try to take over. I know them. Everybody knows what they do. They would try to take over. So it's a bad idea. We want you all to be leaders and not Lexington or Fayette County. So I guess that's it. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pribble.
Thank you.
Steve Glass on GMWSS.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I'm Steve Glass, 143 South Hamilton Street, Georgetown, Kentucky. I'm sorry all the council's not here tonight. What I want to speak on was the $1.75 million federal funds to address northern Scott County infrastructure. And it's a good thing that Andy Barr showed up to let us know what's going on, because they're proposing a project to expand sewer service to northern Scott County and Sadieville with a price tag of $35 million. As I recall, when the recent upgrade to the sewer plant was being discussed, we never heard anything about that. We never heard anything about that being used to improve the situation for Sadieville. And I, along with, I think, a number of other residents of the city would have a problem with that we're paying this additional fee for water and sewer. I don't understand the water part. I mean, the sewer plant part, or the sewer part, I can understand the increase there, but I don't know that anything's changed as far as the water distribution. According to this article, they want to develop 1,000 acres up in the northern part of the county. And I don't really see how that's beneficial to the average person in Georgetown who's paying these increased fees. It's like an income redistribution. You're taking the money from us and sending it to another community. And I don't think there's any doubt that land becomes more valuable when it has sewer. And we're sending our value to other people. And when we make people's property more valuable, we need to share in that wealth. The people of Georgetown need to share in that through an impact fee or something where the money comes back to us to defray taxes and other fees we're paying now. From 2020 to 2023, there's been about a 60% increase in the amount on our water bills. And a good way to get it back is from anything that's outside the city limits of Georgetown. They need to be paying more than we're paying, because anything in northern part of the county in Sadieville, we're not going to get a dime.
You have 1 more minute.
Okay. We're not going to get a dime in tax revenue off that. And occupational tax is where we get most of our money. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Dan Holman.
Hi, I'm Dan Holman from Georgetown. I just had 3 quick issues to touch on. Again, about the regional authority, that it really sounds like the people of the town are calling they have questions and they're calling for transparency, and they're not really happy that a lot of this seems to have been turned over, outside of Scott County, and that the council members here aren't really in control of this project. So yeah, I did pass you all out this resolution that got signed in February, just to remind you of it. And because one council member actually was confused, but not everybody was there that night. 2 of you, Sanja and Todd, weren't there that night, so actually you all have a little deniability here, but not going forward. So that resolution is like a very powerful entity that just gives a lot of power away from the city to this regional authority, and other entities, all the other entities involved, signed very similar resolutions to that one at the same time that you all did. And all of them, I think, didn't ask a lot of questions, and there should have been. So on that resolution, I emailed this to you all, and on resolutions in general, there really needs, it's like they all end with, and therefore give the mayor power to sign all necessary documents. We really need some transparency clause in there. Therefore, whereas the mayor will provide council members, not necessarily the town, but at least council members, transparency into what the details of what are going on. So I think it would be recommended to the council to start thinking about transparency clauses to add into some of these resolutions, especially this huge, gigantic thing that basically I think you all kind of got conned in the signing, and frankly, some of you. So here's one thing that could be done. The mayor could offer Emily, the attorney, to advise the council members about your options for what you could do to get transparency in projects in general, or transparency in this specific project. He has the power to do that. He may not want to, and then you'd kind of know that something's not right if he doesn't allow Emily to advise you all. You also could just write your own transparency clauses, your own resolutions. You have the power to hire an attorney to work for you. So just things like that to consider about transparency, and just don't get conned. Like, I really think sometimes the city and the executive branch and the legislative branch, they want to take, the executive branch succeeds in taking power from the legislative branch. They shouldn't get away with some of these games that they're playing. And at this point, it's pretty dirty games. Now that they've hired this consultant out of Louisville to post fake social media postings, to post fake letters to the editor. So you all need transparency about what this guy has been hired to do with taxpayer money. He's been paid to come in here and subvert the people who are paying his bills. So 2 other quick comments. The police body cameras, I think, is definitely something for discussion. Like that, just to drop that on us tonight, I don't think there's been any conversation leading up to it. There's a lot of concerns, and I hope some of you all are aware of that. There should be discussion about if that's a good idea. I'm running out of time, but so hopefully some of you all will realize about that. And then a third about the budget, we really don't have a good managerial accounting process in this town, and we don't handle infrastructure well. Calling some of these things one-time expenses, like sidewalk shaving, is not a one-time expense. There's constant depreciation. You shave the sidewalk, and then the day after, it's just depreciating. It's raining, it's freezing, and you're going to need to shave it again. Capital expenses are not one-time expenses. We need to manage depreciation in this town. Probably with the city hall, you all should bond that. Instead of paying it and calling it a one-time expense, it should be bonded out and paid a monthly bill just to remind us that it's an ongoing expense. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Vince Morrison.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to talk a little bit about the body cameras. I know we have come to an agreement that we're going to get them, the systems. An incident happened. I'm not really going to get into the incident, but if they had body cameras already, we would have the truth, because it's now a he say, she say conversation. But the body cameras don't lie. And they're necessary, they're crucial. And so they should be at the top of the list if we're going to, go forward with them. I believe that some incidents happen, but we don't ever get to the truth because there's no recording of it. Again, I get calls all the time about issues. And if the body cameras are available, we don't have them, I believe. I believe that it would just tell a story. The person's wrong, they're wrong. The police are wrong, they're wrong. Secondly, I would like to understand where we are with dealing with affordable housing, because we talk about it, but I don't hear anything else about it. We talk about what, we hired somebody who is not really given authority, not given a budget, not given a staff. And so she's kind of like out there trying to figure things out. But this is not the season to figure it out. We need somebody who has it figured out. Somebody who could have came in and from the ground, touched down, been able to go to HUD, been able to go to the state, match tax credits with NOFAs, do all the things that's necessary to move the projects. And so I think it's critical that we now have some conversations, that we hold some hearings to talk about strategy for affordable housing and what that really means. What is affordable? We need to outline what affordable is, because affordable could be everything other than what we're looking to do. And so I implore you to hold hearings, public hearings, to talk about affordable housing here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next we have some event applications, and we have the American Legion 4th of July event.
Members of the council, thank you for allowing me to come tonight. My name is Jim Woodrum. I'm the post commander at the American Legion post out on Connector Road. I think most of you drive by there. If you haven't stopped by, stop in and visit with us, and on Wednesdays through Saturdays and have a meal with us. The purpose of me being here tonight, we're asking for Court Street, or the Courthouse Square as we refer to it, here to the right of the building here, to be closed on July the 4th from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock for allow us to have a post-24 Veteran Festival. What that will entail, well, I'll get into that in just a second, but some years ago, the Scott County Art Consortium came to us and asked us to come down to Water Street and start helping them with hot dog giveaways and first one thing to another. Well, that grew and we moved to Royal Spring Park. And after a couple of years, I guess people got tired of walking over the hill to get their hot dog and soft drink. So they just stayed up here for whatever reason. So what we felt would probably be better to do, and we discussed it, is if we could get this little alleyway, this little portion of the street here closed, then we could bring the festival up here, which would include hot dog giveaways, soft drinks. We'll have a small band out there, cornhole tossing, have a dunking booth where the kids get an opportunity to dunk a veteran, and they have a good time at that. And then that will last for from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And we all know that it's not going to start at 10 o'clock because the parade is not over with till 12 or 12:30. So there's about an hour and a half in there. We just need to get in there and get set up.
Mayor,
And
I'll
again-
make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mr. Stone, second made by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and or comments?
I have a question. Mr. Woodrum, you said 10 to 3,
Yes.
but your application says 10 to 2.
Okay. I guess whenever I was typing this up here, I said 3 o'clock because I got to thinking, I don't know, if we don't get in there till 12:30, people don't start coming until about 12:30. An hour and a half is not going to be much time to give away 750 hot dogs and soft drinks and all the stuff that we do. So we'd like to move it to 3 o'clock.
So you need 3 o'clock.
Yes.
I think maybe the motion should include that. Because if this application goes out and the police are working with it and everything, they're looking at this time frame, but yet it's different. So how do we rectify that?
Thank you.
I'll just redo my motion to include it till 3 o'clock.
So you amend the motion that, if I hear you, Mr. Stone, that you want to amend the motion to make it, to allow them to close the downtown, the square portion from Court Street from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, do I have a second to the motion?
Second that.
Motion is second by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
If I might have just a minute.
Okay.
This Saturday, we're having a memorial service just on the courthouse square, just down here, and there's 3 memorials out there, one for World War II veteran, 1 and 2 veterans, Korean War veterans, and Vietnam veterans, and we're going to place a wreath there, and we'd like to invite you all to share with us. We'll be there at 1 o'clock. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is item B, is the Color of Cancer 5K. Is anyone here from that organization?
Sorry, they're going to come June 10th.
Okay, so we're going to move them to June 10th. Thank you, Madam Clerk. A couple of things on the mayor's comments. I have a couple of things I want to complicate. I want to thank Dr. Campbell for coming in last week and talking about the compensation study. It is it's good to know that that we're trying to get people in here that are going to be the kind of people that's going to provide the best service for our community. So I'm glad he came and explained that to this council. And moving forward for down the road and for the future, that we're able to compensate our staff for what they do. Next, the Lemons Mill Street Bridge is a state road project. It's going to start actually tomorrow, but the actual closure of that will actually be next week. They kind of closed it early. They're going to do some repairs on that bridge. And to bring you a little history for that, this was because it did not meet the weight requirements of that. Buses and other heavy equipment could not go over it, so they had to go and make some structural changes with that. So it'll be 6 months. So somewhere in November, this project should be completed. But want to remind you that the walking path that leads from there to Georgetown College and that bridge will still be open for them to use. And next, I want to call City Engineer Eddie to come up and speak to just be brief, just about the two street projects that we've got going on at this point in time.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, for having me up. One project that Mayor mentioned was the sidewalks downtown on Main Street. As you know, there's some cracks and some offsets, and those are going to get fixed and repaired as part of this project through a grinding method that they're going to use. And the other project, I think, was the Lemons Mill. Well, you already touched on that one. Was there another one that you wanted to?
I think the other ones was about the street, about the bricks and so on.
Oh yeah, the bricks. Thank you. So we're working on it's in the budget for this coming cycle to repair the bricks on the sidewalks on Main Street. That is not a part of the grinding. The grinding, they can't do that edge between the brick and the concrete because it'll break the bricks up. So the bricks are under a separate project where we want to pull each one up and relay them in the same location.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the council committee reports, and we have finance.
Yes. We met on May 6, 2024, special call finance committee meeting. Mayor Jenkins, Councilmember Allen, Finance Director Clark, and CEO Golden, Jenkins, as well as myself. We approved the minutes from the April 15th and the April 29th special call meetings. Primarily, our discussion was around budget items. We discussed revenue projections. We adjusted the employee, the employee taxes by 300, and the net profits was adjusted down by 250. On the expense side, we made some adjustments to nonprofits and reviewed the interlocal topics that we had. We discussed the full council budget review that was going to occur on 5/11 that has taken place. Discussed the fund balance. Fiscal agent is recommending that we have a fund balance of 10%, but we are actively looking at documents that will give us guidance on the correct fund balance percentage to establish. And that will be more forthcoming on that.
Okay.
We discussed the comp study. Director Clark explained the grades and the STEP concept, which has already been explained to the full council as well. The comp study numbers, they are included in the first reading of the budget tonight. And full council review the comp study presentation. We reviewed it on 5/11, explaining the methodologies and the policies. And the meeting was adjourned.
All right.
Greg, you mind if I add one thing to that? Just on the recommendation for the fund balance, the fiscal agent didn't actually make a recommendation. That was a comp pulled from school districts. I just want to, they're helping us, actively helping us pull policies and work on that language, but I think that was a comp from like a school district. But like Councilman Hampton said, they're actively considering what percentages would be best for us and our unique needs and our heavy reliance on payroll tax. So, thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, we have GMWSS. We have the second reading of the 2004 Series A Bond Anticipation Note Ordinance. Sponsors are Connie Tackett and Willow Hamburg.
Ready?
Yes.
Summary. At a special meeting held on May 20th, 2024, the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, the city gave second reading to and enacted an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of its water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note 2024 Series A in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $35,790,000, which amount may increase by up to $3,580,000 or decrease by any amount. To refund at maturity the city's water and sewer bond anticipation note 2022 Series A, in anticipation of the issuance of the city's water and sewer revenue bonds, 2025 Series A, designating the city as the paying agent and registrar for the 2024 Series A note, approving the form of the 2024 Series A note, approving the preparation of a request for proposals and other offering documents for the 2024 Series A note, authorizing designated officers of the city to execute and deliver the 2024 Series A note, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment of and security for the 2024 Series A note, establishing a note redemption fund and a cost of issuance account for the 2024 Series A note, providing for the sale of the 2024 Series A note to the best bidder, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. The ordinance authorizes the issuance by the city of a series of its water and sewer revenue bond anticipation notes in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $35,790,000, the 2024 Series A note, for the purposes of, 1, fully refunding and retiring the outstanding amount of the city's water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note, 2022 Series A, dated June 28, 2022, at maturity in anticipation of the future issuance of the city's water and sewer revenue bonds, 2025 Series A. 2, paying capitalized interest for the 2024 Series A note, and 3, paying the cost of issuance of the 2024 Series A note. The ordinance also approves the execution and delivery by the city of a request for proposals and other offering documents for the sale of the 2024 Series A note. The 2024 Series A note is to be sold at a private negotiated sale in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 424 of the Kentucky Revised Statute, or by the solicitation of proposals as required by law. The 2024 Series A note is to bear interest payable at a single rate per annum from its date of issuance to maturity, as shall be established upon the sale of the 2024 Series A note. The interest rate applicable to the 2024 Series A note shall not exceed 10% per annum. Introduced and publicly read for the first time on May 13, 2024. Publicly read for the second time, May 20th, 2024.
All right. Do I have a motion to?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen. Do I have a second? Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or comments? At this time, we will take a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Second, B is the second reading of the 2025 Series A bond ordinance, sponsors Connie Tacken and Willow Hamburg.
An ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of its water and sewer revenue bonds 2025 Series A in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $38 million, which amount may be increased by up to $3,800,000 or decreased by any amount, for the purpose of refunding its water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note 2024 Series A at or in advance of maturity, designating a paying agent and a registrar for the 2025 Series A bonds, authorizing designated officers of the city to execute and deliver the 2025 Series A bonds and all related documents on behalf of the city, providing for the payment of and security for the 2025 Series A bonds, establishing a principal account, interest account, and cost of issuance account for the 2025 Series A bonds, approving the preparation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement for the 2025 Series A bonds, providing for the award of the 2025 Series A bonds to the lowest and best bidder, approving the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, and repealing any inconsistent ordinances. Recitals. Whereas on December the 10th, 2018, the City Council of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, a municipality and political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the city, adopted a general bond ordinance, the general bond ordinance, pursuant to which the city is authorized to issue its water and sewer revenue bonds from time to time, the proceeds of which, in whole or in part, are to be used to finance or refinance the cost of improvements to the city's municipal water and sanitary sewer system. And whereas the general bond ordinance authorizes the issuance and sale from time to time of water and sewer revenue bonds of the city in one or more series pursuant to one or more series ordinances, and whereas in accordance with the general bond ordinance and the 2024 Series A bond anticipation note ordinance adopted by the City Council at the city on May 20th, 24, the city has authorized the issuance, sale, award, execution, and delivery of its water and sewer revenue bond, anticipation note 2024 Series A, in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $35,790,000. The 2024 Series A note, for the purposes of, one, fully refunding at maturity the city's water and sewer revenue bond, anticipation note 2022 Series A, dated June 28, 2022, issued in an aggregate principal amount of $31,520,000, the proceeds of which were used, A, to fully refund the city's, one, water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note, 2019 Series A, dated November 19, 2019, and two, water and sewer revenue anticipation note, Series 2022, dated December 30, 2021. And B, to provide interim financing for the cost of the expansion of the city's existing sanitary sewage treatment plant and related facilities. 2, paying capitalized interest for the 2024 Series A note. And 3, paying the cost of reissuance of the 2024 Series A note. And I'm missing a page. Sorry. I may need to start again. All right, bear with me. Sorry, guys. An ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of its water and sewer revenue bonds 2025 Series A in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $38 million, which amount may be increased by up to $3,800,000 or increased by any amount for the purpose of refunding its water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note 2024 Series A, or in advance of maturity, designating a payment agent and a registrar for the 2025 Series A bonds, authorizing designated officers of the city to execute and deliver the 2025 Series A bonds and all related documents on behalf of the city, providing for the payment of the security for the 2025 Series A bonds, establishing a principal account, interest account, and cost of issuance account for the 25 Series A bonds, approving the preparation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement for the 2025 Series A bonds, providing for the award of the 2025 Series A bonds to the lowest and best bidder, approving the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, and repealing any inconsistent ordinances. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of a series of water and sewer revenue bonds by the city in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $38,800,000. The 2025 Series A bonds for the purpose of, one, refunding the city's outstanding water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note 2024 Series A at or in advance of maturity, the proceeds of which fully refunded and retired the city's outstanding water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note 2022 Series A at maturity. 2, paying the cost of credit enhancements for the 2025 Series A bonds, if any, and 3, paying the cost of issuance of the 2025 Series A bonds. The ordinance also approves, A, the preparation and distribution of preliminary official statements and final official statement for the 2025 Series A bonds, B, the official terms and conditions of bond sale for the 2025 Series A bonds, and C, the execution of a continuing disclosure agreement in connection with the 2025 Series A bonds. The 2025 Series A bonds are to be sold in advertised public sale in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 424 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes as required by law. The 2025 Series A bonds shall bear interest payable at a rate of rates from their date of issuance to their respective maturities as shall be established upon their sale. Introduced and publicly read for the first time on May 13, 2024. Publicly read for the second time, May 20th, 2024.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Allen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and/or comments? At this time, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton? Yes. Mr. Showalter? Yes. Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Thank you. At this time, we now go to item C, Jack Doheny Companies Incorporated, $359,874.
Yes, sir. That's for a non-CDL Freightliner Vector impact combination sewer cleaner, which means that it can use the rotor capability to clear an obstruction in a sewer line and then use the Vector or vacuum capability to then vacuum out that debris that was clogging the sewer line. This is a smaller Vector rotor truck which can perform all the tasks of larger ones, but it will enable operators without a CDL to use this truck, meaning any on-call employee can respond to a service call. It incorporates the rotor technology to clear the debris from the sewer line, along with the vacuum technology, which will then suck it out of the sewer line. We're funding this truck from a couple of different sources. We had originally decided to buy just the rotor truck, which was going to cost about $150,000. And then we had separate savings we were putting away at $80,000 per year for a camera truck. We had $240,000 saved up for the camera truck. We've determined the camera truck can last at least another 5, maybe even 10 years. So we're going to incorporate the savings for the camera truck of $240,000 plus the rotor truck $150,000 to give us a total of $390,000, which, as you can clearly see, is more than enough to purchase this Vector/rotor truck. We'll restart the camera truck savings next year over a period of 5 to 10 years to save up to eventually replace the camera truck.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Showalter. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second made by Mr. Allen. Are there further questions and/or comments?
Yeah, a couple questions. On the rotor truck, I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but you said the funds there were $150,000. When do you look at anticipating replacing that vehicle?
We won't now.
You won't now?
No, this vehicle will take the place.
So that will stay on site, or?
No, the rotor truck that we had the $150,000 for was going to be a new addition to the fleet. But instead, this truck that we're purchasing from Jack Doheny, that'll incorporate that technology.
And how long will it take you to save up for another camera truck? I mean, you said the life expectancy of a camera truck is going to be 5 to 10 years. There's a pretty big window in there. So in 5 years, will you have enough saved up to replace that vehicle?
Yeah, we should. It's going to be about $100,000 a year. Okay. A new camera truck will be roughly a $500,000 investment.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Mayor, just to clarify, this is an addition, not a replacement.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the Jack Doheny Companies Incorporated $359,874 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Next, Brentag Mid-South Incorporated, $11,205.
This is a periodic purchase of bleach for our water plant. The price at $2.49 a gallon is exactly in line with our chemical bid price, and this is a budgeted purchase.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Brent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Stone. Are there further questions and/or comments?
Just a quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
Jeff, how are we seeing prices right now as far as the chemicals and things?
For these types of chemicals, they've come down a little bit
Come down.
From the height of the pandemic. So this $2.49 was closer to $3, $2.75 and higher during the pandemic, so it's come down a little bit.
Okay. What about your budget? Had you budgeted that much for it, or
Yeah, we had.
you had budgeted that much? Okay.
Yeah, just out of an abundance of caution.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the Brentag Mid-South Incorporated, $11,205, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that it passed. Next, we have Steffer Pump and Supply Incorporated, $109,750.
This is the replacement of 2 pumps at our Ward Hall pump station. One of the 2 pumps is currently inoperable, and it's no longer in production. These pumps are over 15 years old. Repair of the pump is not an option since it's no longer in production. Because of this and the age of the pump that's still operating, we've elected to replace both of these pumps. This will be funded through the collections budget, through their annual sewer rehabilitation capital budget.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second made by Mr. Stone. Are there further questions and or comments?
One question, what's the life expectancy of a pump? I just heard you say 15 years, but now that we're into probably new technology, are we seeing a longer life expectancy?
We normally add them now at 20.
20?
Yes.
And then the pumps that you have, can you find replacement parts for them, or are they just obsolete?
These
One pump that is currently...
these particular pumps, we no longer can get replacement parts. That's why we could not repair the inoperable pump.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of Stafford Pump and Supply Incorporated, $109,750, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next, F will be Family Tree HVAC, $125,000.
This project is to replace 9 of the 15 HVAC systems at our administration building. We had a mechanical engineer come out and evaluate our system. He recommended replacement of 9 of the 15 units as opposed to installing a new centralized system, which we weren't even sure, beyond the cost, we weren't even sure the roof would hold a centralized system. Family Tree HVAC was the only respondent to the bid. We sent out the bid to numerous contractors locally, but Family Tree was the only contractor to respond. This project was included in our current budget at $250,000. We've received multiple recommendations for this company, and they have provided us with their certificate of insurance and a performance bond.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Allen. Do I have a second? Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or comments?
You said we had no local businesses to...
No, ma'am. Nobody responded except for Family Tree, unfortunately.
All right.
Is it possible to work with those local, I don't even know how to ask this question, but is it possible to work with these local contractors to see why they didn't respond and give them some help? Maybe it's, we talked earlier about those 2 items. It was the
Certificate of insurance and the performance bond.
And the performance bond may be holding up some local contractors. So I would prefer that things like this stay in-house in terms of locality.
Yes.
I know this is a Frankfurt-sourced, looks like, organization, and I have no issues with them at all. Just want to know that going forward, what can we do to help our local contractors understand what they need and try to get those documents. So I don't know if that's something we can do or not, Devin, or...
Want to keep the money here in Georgetown and help our local businesses out.
That's something we can look into, and we can coordinate with them.
Certainly. I'll take a note back to Chase.
Are there any questions and or comments? All those in favor of the Family Tree HVAC, $125,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next, we have our Chief Administrative
Can I
Officer.
ask another question, or is it too late? I'll ask it. What does the other 8 HVACs look like in terms of their life expectancy?
Anywhere from 5 to 7, 8 years. It kind of depends on it's a bit of a hodgepodge of units, to be honest.
So that gives us some time to work with
It
local
gives us
contractors.
Yes, that's what we thought as well.
If we can get this leveled up and give them an opportunity to bid on it. My apologies.
Okay. Next, we have the Chief Administrative Officer. They have the second reading of the Zone Map Amendment, 944 East Main Street, sponsors Greg Hampton and Todd Stone.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing approximately .29 plus or minus acres located at 944 East Main Street, Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from B5 to B2 to correct commercial lot lines. Summary: 1. Rezones approximately 0.29 plus or minus acres located at 944 East Main Street, Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from B5 to B2 to correct lot lines. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time May 13th, 2024. Publicly read the second time May 20th, 2024.
Do we have a motion? Motion made by Mr. Hampton. Do we have a second made by Mr. Stone? Are there further questions and/or comments? At this time, Madam Clerk, we have roll call.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Excuse me. Item B is the resolution accepting the community corrections grant funding, mental health court. And before you say anything, I'm going to ask Judge Galbraith to come up. And
All right, thank you so much for your time. On behalf of Judge Sarah Hayes Spedding, who couldn't be here tonight, and the 14th Judicial Circuit and District, I wish to thank Mayor Jenkins and the members of the City Council for Georgetown for joining with us in applying for the Community Corrections Grant and voting today whether to receive the award. These funds will provide much-needed wraparound services in the creation of our mental health court. Before I go any further, though, it's been a very difficult day for me today as drug court judge. We suffered the loss of life of one of our participants. As drug court judge, I haven't yet experienced the loss of life. This was a young man with a full life ahead of him, and I mourn for him and the loss to his family and friends. I am disheartened, but I'm not discouraged. These programs do work, and they do help. I don't often quote scripture from the bench, but there's always a scripture that I go back to as drug court judge. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. As a specialty court judge, I come back to that time and time again. The least of these, the least of us, of our community. People with mental illnesses are more likely to be arrested, to be denied, and unable to pay bail, and to have lengthier stays in jail compared to those without mental illnesses. Our local jails are often the de facto mental health hospitals for people who cannot access appropriate community-based mental health treatment and services. Our mental health court will not be the final solution for this problem, but it will be a good step in the right direction of providing a solution to an ever-burgeoning dilemma for our community and our Commonwealth. Since I last appeared before you in February, we have had some updates. The local Community Corrections Board has now met twice. They met on May 13th to draft and approve a community corrections plan that will enact procedures for the mental health court. The members of the board will have until May 31st to provide further recommendations for substantive changes to this plan. If none are submitted, the plan will be sent to the State Community Corrections Board and the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court for review and approval. So our board met. They did vote on the procedures. One of our members had the time wrong. She showed up late. So I'm giving her a little bit of extra time. That was our Commonwealth's attorney. As you remember, she did come to the February City Council meeting. She had many concerns. I took her concerns to the Community Corrections Board on her behalf. We did remove the language that she wanted removed. I also assured her that her victim's advocate could be part of the mental health court team. I encouraged that, and so hopefully that'll address the issues. But I wanted to give her a little extra time until May 31st to add any substantive changes. So we do have a voted on plan that can go now to the Community Corrections Board as soon as you vote to decide whether to accept the grant. Also, so happy to report that the legislature changed its stance and decided to support mental health courts. The legislature voted to fund 10 mental health courts throughout the state, specifically designating funding for Scott, Bourbon, and Woodford counties. So anyone who made phone calls to the legislatures, I appreciate you doing that. These funds from the legislature will cover a mental health court program coordinator position, including salary, benefits, and office supplies, and will cover treatment services for participants not otherwise covered by Medicaid. Therefore, the $55,000 grant from the Community Corrections Board that you're voting on today, whether to accept, will be used as wraparound funds to provide training for the mental health court staff, resources for mental health court participants, such as rent, deposit assistance, sober living beds, transportation to and from treatment, meetings, and other required events, food for indigent participants, essential items for participants coming directly from jail, assistance with attaining essential documents like driver's license or ID so they can receive services, and other services not provided by insurance. This is all done with the goal of assisting these individuals, maintaining their mental health, reducing recidivism rates, and ensuring that we lower jail costs. That's all the goal of this program. The program coordinator position will be advertised soon and has a projected start date of July 16th. I was hoping for July 1st, but AOC said no. All right, so in August, Judge Spedding and I will begin a campaign of educating our other judges, probation and parole, our prosecutors, all the stakeholders in the process of the procedures for referring individuals into mental health court. And we will form a mental health court team out of those individuals. We anticipate accepting participants as early as September, if not sooner. Thank you again for your foresight and your planning and partnering with us to create a mental health court, which will provide a new path for individuals who would not have otherwise had this opportunity. Again, this is how we all come together to care for the least of us in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Ms. Brandt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Allen. Are there further questions and or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a request that we get an update on this maybe quarterly, so we understand how this is moving.
I would be happy to do
not see
so.
you again, but I want to see you again and just get an understanding of how things are moving forward.
And part of our requirements for the mental health court is to maintain data. We have to do that for the administrative office of the court, so I would be happy to report those statistics.
Please bring
to you.
your data and bring some participants if they're willing to come. 'Cause I would love
Well,
to
it is a
see that.
confidential program,
I
so
said if they're willing to come.
maybe once they graduate.
Oh, no problem.
All right,
Well,
thank
that's
you.
it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You said the budget back in February 2026, I think you said the total budget was 217.
Yes, so now that we have legislative funding, we are only going to have one worker to begin with, which we believe will not hamper us. We'll still work very hard to run the program, and we're hoping that in the future, the legislature will see fit to fund more positions. But the community corrections grant would not pay for positions anyway, so that's not typically what they cover. With the legislative funding, we were able to lower our expectations for the purpose of the grant. One thing I did want to address, and I didn't mention, we're partnering with the City of Georgetown for fiscal year 25, but the plan moving forward is for the Community Corrections Board to apply for the grant in the future. So we are still working under that plan and hope to do so in February of 2025.
All right.
Thank you.
Any more questions and comments?
Congratulations, Judge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the resolution accepting the community corrections grant funding mental health court passed. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have the municipal order approving contract for Lanes Run Business Park Phase 3 Design Services.
So we issued a request for proposals and received 3 submittals. The highest scoring proposal was Thoroughbred Engineering. at the total cost of $137,250. As you all recall, this is the local KPDI application for which we were granted $1.5 million shared matching funds from the city, county, and Scott United. So this project will be funded under our prior year revenues from the business park account, but it'll be shared in equal thirds with those other partners.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Allen. Do I have a second?
Can I second it?
Second.
Second?
I think Mark.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Showalter, you second that? Thank you. Second by Mr. Showalter. Are there further questions and/or comments?
Mayor, I know this is a ongoing issue, or a project that we've got going on. Shouldn't be an issue, it's a project. But there are some issues that are coming up in the budget later that I think we need to look at as well. This $137,000 could go towards some other things, but, we just need to move forward cautiously, because we do have some other projects that desperately need to be fulfilled, so.
Are there further questions and/or comments?
Yeah, just in response to that, this is for Business Park? For
Lanes Run.
Yeah.
Not-
for Lanes Run.
not the-
Just clarifying, so this is for phase 3 of the Lanes Run Business Park.
All right. Any other further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise. Next, resolution accepting the Cleaner Water Program grant and approving the assistance agreement.
So you probably are having deja vu. Georgetown Municipal has been granted through the city of Georgetown several cleaner water program allocations. This one is for $5 million for the Paynes Depot water storage tank. So that's one of the projects that they've had on the capital project slate that we can kind of reduce the cost. If I'm remembering correctly, the total project cost on this is $12 million, Jeff? 12.7 million. So that $5 million will reduce that cost on a project that was already budgeted and considered as part of the rate structure.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
A motion made by Mr. Showalter. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
I have a second by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the resolution accepting the Cleaner Water Program grant and approving the assistance agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Number 11 is the city engineer. Eddie, if you want to come up, this the resolution approving the application for a TAP grant
Yes, sir.
with West Main Street Phase 2.
Yeah. So this is for sidewalks, starting at the water filtration plant where we left off the last phase that we did, the first phase, and goes out to Elizabeth Street, which is, it's going to go on one side of the street, that same side of the street, all the way out to Elizabeth Street, which is where a lot of apartments and homes are down there, to fix all those sidewalks that are kind of elevated up. And it's a grant application. We don't know if we're going to get the grant, but we're going to go for it. And we're asking for support of the TAP grant application.
Do we know if we approve this, do we have a time frame on when we will hear back?
Get a motion and second on the floor. Quick. Nope, you're
I'll
good.
make a motion.
Second.
Okay, let's start again with this. Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Sonia made a motion. Do you have a second?
No, second.
Thank you. Now, we have a motion and a second. Now we have questions. Go ahead, Mr. Showalter.
You're-
Do we have a time frame?
When we would hear, like, when,
Approve this
you mean as far as knowing when we would get the money? What do you think, 6 months, maybe?
I feel like their turnaround's been pretty quick. If you'll remember, we've applied for this second phase twice already, and we've been rejected twice. And I feel like we heard back in a 3 to 6 month period, maybe even less. I can look, but I feel like the turnaround's been pretty quick. I did want to add, you'll recall that we applied for the whole phase to Elizabeth Street, and then we were rejected, so we reduced the scope of our application, and we got rejected again, and we thought, what do we need to do? And we had a positive meeting with the Transportation Cabinet where they indicated that it was possible that we weren't being funded because we had just gotten additional funding on our Cardinal Drive project, and we had 2 open projects. We've now closed those projects out, all final paperwork. So hopeful that now that we've closed those projects out, we look a little better on the funding side. Also, you'll notice we did include a 30% match instead of 20% to just show additional local commitment to the project. They said that's not a true criteria, but local commitment to a project is, and both of the people we spoke to participate in the scoring of these applications, so they seem to think that would be a positive thing.
And again, this is something we've been trying for years to do and had not been successful. I think we tried, 4 or 5 times on this thing?
Yeah, this will be our third attempt.
Hadn't come up with anything, so we decided to scale back a little bit and do it in phases. By doing it in phases and then put a little bit more upfront money up forward, will make our application more palatable to them, and from talking with them, they said this would be the next best thing for us to do. So, is there any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. All right.
Thank you
next.
all.
Okay, we have our finance director coming up, and we got the first reading of the 2024-25 budget ordinance. Sponsors are Alonzo Allen and Greg Hampton, and I'll let you do it first.
Yeah, I just had a couple updates.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention, there was a memo in the packet. There were 2 small changes. One of those was Assistant Chief Johnson just found an error on the uniforms for code enforcement. That was supposed to be $250 higher. That's an interlocal, so the net impact to our budget on that one's less than $125. And then we had budgeted in the original proposed budget, you were presented $5,000 a year for recurring costs to host our code of ordinances on the website. So it's one of the searchable databases that a lot of cities in Kentucky have. Most cities our size have. There was an upfront implementation cost that we just got the quote on last week. So that was $15,700 that has been added under the clerk's line item for getting our code of ordinances online in that searchable database to make it easier for our citizens to look through code instead of just having to comb through a large PDF document. So those were the 2 changes. Just wanted to update you on that. There was a memo in the packet to reflect that. And then I just wanted to make 2 points of clarification on the comp study presentation, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. The 4% adjustment across the board, that was obviously the first step that happened in the compensation study. And as he mentioned, there was bringing people up to minimum and then adjustment to step. And one of the things that we discussed with police and fire that they requested, that created a little bit of compression in those 0 to 5 year employees. So there are some employees in police and fire, I believe I've written down, it's about 6 in police, about 12 in fire, who their increases are about 2.7 to 3.1 because it was someone who'd been hired in, say, the last 6 months to a year. They'll start on step 2 rather than starting on step 3 or 4. And it was because we had a whole range of experience that was very tightly compressed. And if we raised these up, then we had to raise everybody above them up. So we discussed that with police and fire. So that was one of the things that was one of those adjustments that had to be made. So it was generally started with 4%, but then there was that compression issue. So I just wanted to clarify that on those. And I know Councilman Stone, you asked about the shift differential. That, I'm not sure why Russell said that. That wasn't one of the policies that was in the final report, which I think we're hoping to get out to you all this week. But that was discussed with police and fire. They, especially police, they didn't request the shift differential. So it wasn't one of the policies that we had asked Russell to look at. And if we do, obviously it's not recommended in this budget, but I think what we've discussed is the next step would probably be incentives for certifications would be the next thing they would prefer over the shift differential. It's not to say we can't consider that in the future, but I wanted to make that point of clarification that I think Russell, he may in other cities have recommended those policies, but it wasn't one that our police requested, so it wasn't one that was considered in our study. So I just wanted to make those 2 points of clarification to make
Right.
sure. Yes.
I won't be here, but if this budget passes
Yes.
the way it's been presented, and you just discussed that 2.7,
Yeah.
am I assuming correctly that in the next budget year, which will be June of 25, or I'm sorry, July 1st of 25, then is the intent to get back at that point to a flat fee for, or flat
Yes.
increase for every
Yes.
employee?
So going forward, provided you all adopt the budget, provided you adopt the new personnel ordinance, then what will happen is the step schedule has built-in increases. I think it's between 2.2 and 2.5, depending on which scale you're looking at. We will recommend a flat cost of living increase for inflation, and that will be applied across that step schedule.
Okay.
So that everyone will, going forward, get the same percentage. So this is just our starting point to get us to where the compensation study said we should be, and then, and trying to address some of those compression issues where, like I said, we had people hired within the last 6 months and people hired 4 and 5 years ago that, again, it's because we were so tightly compressed before that when they rounded to the next step, they all landed on the same step. And so we had to drop down those like 0 to 1 year employees to step 2 instead of step 3 or 4, just to create a little space for experience. We wanted to give our employees credit for experience.
All right. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal period July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. Summary, Section 1. Adopts by incorporated exhibit the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Governmental funds. Prior year revenues, $16,252,976. Revenues, municipal taxation, $3,430,000. Licenses and permits, $31,252,622. Franchise fees, $2,213,100. Fines and forfeitures, $180,000. Intergovernmental revenues, $13,508,946. Charges for services, $1,810,381. Other revenues, $761,000. Other finance sources transfers, $5,831,192. Total city revenues, $58,987,241. Expenditures, general government, $2,637,200. City council, $162,010. City clerk, $359,340. Police, $13,351,556. Public Works, $4,821,642. Fire, $10,557,969. Code enforcement, $430,517. Building inspection, $779,575. Dispatch telecommunications, $3,969,213. Utilities, $906,000. Community services, $959,594. Interlocal, $9,460,690. Self-insured medical plan expenses, $4,210,466. Capital outlay, $17,651,661. Debt service, $1,136,743. Transfers to other funds, $3,846,041. Total city expenditures, $75,240,000. $75,240,217. Proprietary funds, the original budget. Revenues, sanitation, $2,719,200. Cemetery, $246,000. Intergovernmental revenue, $256,287. Other revenue, $5,000. Other financing sources, transfers, $1,729,348. Total proprietary revenues, $4,955,835. Expenditures, sanitation, $2,719,200. Stormwater, $1,479,062. Cemetery, $757,573. Total proprietary expenditures, $4,955,835. Section 2 authorizes the mayor, except as provided in the Georgetown Purchasing Policy adopted in Municipal Order 11028 and amended in Municipal Order 2022-17 to enter into any contracts or agreements necessary to fulfill the operation of city government within the allocations listed in this ordinance. Section 3 provides that if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 4 provides that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time, May 20th, 2024.
Stacy, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Human Resource Personnel Ordinance Draft, information only.
So we wanted to put this in the packet. It will be on your agenda for first reading at the June 10th meeting with the intent to pass it before the new fiscal year goes into play. We're still working on a couple details, specifically how that pay scale is incorporated into this and adopted, especially as that scale adjusts through COLAs in the future. So that's one component that you'll notice is missing, but we also wanted to draw some attention. If you note, there's some positions highlighted. Those are positions that are currently on our personnel ordinance but have been not funded for many years. The finance/legal specialist, for example, that was the role I started with the city in, and that hasn't been funded since I stepped out of that role. Some crossing guard positions. So those are positions that we're recommending, since we're repealing and starting over. We just remove those from the ordinances, and obviously the council can adopt a personnel ordinance amendment at any time to add positions in the future if the council sees fit. So if you all have questions, let us know, but that will come for first reading, and that will include all of the new positions covered in this budget. The other notable section is when we left, when we got out of the sanitation business, we mentioned that we weren't going to lose any employees. So all those sanitation employees went to Public Works, and through attrition over time, we said we would get back to that level that we had on the books, and we are now at that level. So we're removing those positions to reflect the head count we need in Public Works.
All right, next, okay, item 14, the Police Department municipal order approving the On Patrol Live agreement.
Mayor, before we get started, we've discussed this in the police committee meetings, but there was nothing ever to report on it because it was all based upon, well, they've got to come back to us before we ever get anything. And it's, so what we've got is an opportunity to showcase our Georgetown Police Department. Now, there used to be a television show called Cops. Cops was recorded and through personal experience and through friends that I have that were on the show Cops, it sometimes was spurred up to make for good television. With the On Patrol Live, the current television show, I encourage everyone to watch it. It's on the channel called Reels, and it's on every Friday night and Saturday night from 8 till midnight, I believe it is. And it shows police officers on calls. It is not scripted. It is not directed. You see what a body camera would see. So, you know, and they have hosts that talk about the show. This would be an excellent training or not training, an excellent opportunity to promote the city of Georgetown and the police department. But after this came out, I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this for a couple weeks until our next council meeting to give the citizens and council members an opportunity to study up on this, see what it's about, listen to the constituents, listen to the citizens, and let them tell you what it is. This, you know, I give you my spill on it, and my spill comes from experience through friends of friends that were on both shows. So, but I'll turn this over to Nick because Nick's the expert on it. I'm just.
Well,
We have a motion.
I made the motion, yes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
What's the motion?
The motion is that to table this into the very next meeting. which-
Postpone it. until
Postpone the
next council meeting.
council meeting.
Okay.
I like to second it to postpone it because I think the citizens need to definitely, I mean, it was just brought to us Friday, so,
Yeah.
and I have no idea.
If we're gonna make the motion to postpone it, we won't have discussion tonight.
Okay.
No, we were
So
not.
Let's
So
postpone.
I have a motion made by
Yes.
Mr. Stone. Do you have a second by Ms. Brent?
Well, if I'm seconding this, how does the citizens know about it? Just explain to me.
They'll have to contact you.
Con-
Before we move on to the next item, I do want to let Nick talk just a little bit about it.
Well, we
Just so-
can't-
Well, they're saying we can't.
I
If I
understand that,
second
so
it.
I'll withdraw my motion and let him talk.
Okay. Listen up. We got a motion to do this, okay? So we're kind of going off kilter here.
Only thing I was asking is how the
Just a minute.
citizens
Let me,
know.
okay. I believe what the idea is that you want to put the motion in so people can actually view it themselves, find out a little bit more about it. Then the next time we come back to council, then we can discuss this further. And if people wants to come in and voice their opinion on that, they can do it to the council at that time. That's what I'm understanding this first motion is about. So that's the motion. You have a second,
To table it, yes.
okay? And to table that,
You're gonna postpone it
so to postpone it,
to the next.
are there further discussion and/or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we do this, then Nick can't talk about it tonight, is that
Right,
correct?
he'll come back and talk about it the next time, yes.
I would prefer that Nick speak about it tonight because he has information on it. So if we can take the motion off the table, because I'm not familiar with it, guys, not as familiar. I talked to Captain Lowell earlier, and he's got information that he can share. I'd like to hear it. And
I
If
understand.
Sandra would withdraw
And then
her
we'll do the
second,
motion.
I will
I'll withdraw my
it.
motion.
I will
It's-
withdraw my
It's just
second.
procedural
Yeah,
timing,
right.
so.
So we're gonna
I
take the
will
motion off the
withdraw,
table,
yes.
and you're gonna withdraw it.
Withdraw my motion.
Okay, so we're drawing the motion. So now, I guess, we're gonna have discussion on this at this time. You wanna talk a little bit about this time? Just a little bit, briefly? Okay, go ahead.
All right. So the show that we're talking about is On Patrol Live. It's currently broadcast on Reels. You can also watch all the episodes on Peacock. It's a streaming subscription service. But the whole idea behind this show is it's meant to bring a realistic view of the full spectrum of law enforcement and humanizing the officers and professions for the viewers. So I know some of you all are probably going to ask our why. So this is basically a tool that we would use for transparency, for community engagement, and for recruitment. All the agencies that we've spoken to that are on this show have seen a spike both in community engagement and in recruitment. As you know, recruitment efforts, we've really ramped up our efforts, but we're still looking for other ways to try to recruit and just draw positive attention to the department so that we can onboard some more folks. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of kind of what it would look like. So the filming would take place every Friday and Saturday night from 9 p.m. to midnight. They would also come and do some non-live filming throughout the week. that would allow for them to create some short clips just in case they have a slow night on a Friday or Saturday from inclement weather or whatever. But they are flexible with us in terms of what times they come for the non-live portions. Currently, they follow 9 departments from coast to coast. They do operate on a delay of approximately between 15 and 30 minutes, and that's to avoid any conflicts that we may have with an open investigation utilizing a confidential informant or something that could put one of our investigations or someone we're working with in jeopardy. One thing they do ask of us is that the live feed is monitored by a member of our command staff, just to monitor for these kind of issues. If there were to be a confidential informant, some kind of conflict with an open investigation, we can report that to the producers. They offer a wanted segment and a missing person segment aired nightly. They've seen a lot of great success nationwide. You know, if we had a case of a missing person or a wanted, we would be eligible to put that on there as well. They typically would bring 2 different camera crews in. One would be the cameraman, the other would be a production assistant. And so I know one of the questions I've been asked is, you know, like privacy-wise, how does that work? So they follow the same rules as all news reporting organizations, meaning that if it is a non-live, so if it's one of the ones that they're filming to create for content on the off chance that they have a slower night, then they would have to have a signed release from anybody and everybody to be unblurred. If it's live, they follow the same rules that any news reporting organization would come out if they were reporting, you know, some breaking news. You know, if you're in a public place, you would like, you know, you could end up being on television. However, without the permission of a homeowner, they're not allowed to go into like a private dwelling. So that's where that production assistant kind of comes into play of getting the okay for them to go into a private residence. In terms of the cost, the show is cost neutral. Any cost that's incurred due to the show is covered by the show. And we just look for it as a really awesome opportunity to showcase the hard work that our officers are doing, as well as to show off our community. You know, we're proud of the agency that we have. We're proud of the community that we serve. I know that there have been some talks about finding more avenues for transparency. As you all know, the body-worn camera program, the contract for that was signed a few weeks ago, and that's well on the way to coming to fruition this summer. We feel like this is another great tool that will both benefit the community through transparency and through the engagement, and it will benefit us through recruitment efforts and just a chance for us to showcase the great work that our guys are doing. So.
All right. So now.
Now I'll make a motion
You want to make a motion?
to postpone until the next council meeting.
Okay, postpone voting on this to next council meeting. Is that correct? That'd be June 10th. Now, do I have a second?
I will second that.
I have a second by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and or comments?
Question, when does this start? When potentially would this start?
So once it's approved, we would then work with their production team to identify like a date. I would say at this point it would be late summer at the earliest. So it's nothing that we would rush into.
Is the city getting paid for, or police department or anything?
It's cost neutral. So any cost that we would incur from overtime would be reimbursed to the city.
And you said that the faces are blurred out, and to unblur the faces, they have to sign a release.
If it's non-live, so if it's live and you're in a public place, then the same rules would apply if someone pulled out a cell phone. Just meaning that public place, live airing, they don't follow the same rules as going into like a private dwelling. They have to get permission, and they have to get permission from the person even once they enter to unblur their face. Okay. Anything that's considered not live, so anything that they're filming that then they would put together a clip and showcase later, they have to have a signed release in order for them.
If it's not live.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. But if it's live?
If it's live and you're in a public place, they would follow the same rules that like any news organization would.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Have there been any lawsuits or anything from this company to the city that, can I ask that?
Not that I saw. I've not. Yes.
Excuse me, please.
I'll be happy to research for you if you'd like. But if
Yeah, because I don't want to kind of put ourselves in jeopardy. It sounds like an interesting program, but I don't want to put ourselves in some litigation concerns.
I know you all are on board, but I just really feel that the citizens need to come and, you know, voice some concerns or whatever. What would this do with like open records requests and stuff from the court cases that go to court? I mean, how are these? I mean, they're filming live, but will that do something like open requests and stuff? Will that make
So
more?
they would have a process
Okay.
for anything that would be related to a case to be requested for the use in that.
You know, I'm in the courtroom right now, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And the body cameras are still worn, still
Yeah.
active?
We'll have our body cam program will be up and going before this show ever gets here. So
I think that's the one request that I definitely would have is make sure the body cameras are activated or in use prior to the show.
Oh, I'm all in favor of that.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, one other comment. Sorry. In terms of, it sounds like this has been discussed at the police committee. And, even though it wasn't formalized or completed, probably would have been helpful to come before council and, hey, we're just talking about this. I think that would have been
I mean,
beneficial.
and there's really nothing, we've talked to them, nothing. So nothing really, to report on about it, so.
So
I think more's come up in the past few weeks than really anything, so.
the motion is made that it was made and properly second to postpone this and to vote on this on the June 10th meeting after giving some time for public comment to the constituents. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that this motion to postpone it to June 10th meeting has passed. Public Works, municipal order approving transfer of funds.
We had something similar to this recently with police. So we have, Robert has some excess funds in the Public Works budget to pave the run-in shed, which is an open shed where he stores equipment and vehicles. It was something he requested in next year's budget that we decided to postpone. He has some extra money from expendable supplies where it wasn't a heavy salt ordering year. So we're requesting to move the money from expendable supplies to buildings and improvements so that he can pave that run-in shed prior to June 30th. It's got some big dips and water retention issues right now. So it is it's not just a simple resurfacing. We're trying to fix
It's a safety hazard.
water issues.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Allen. Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. At this time, we have council comments. We will start with Mr. Stone. We'll start with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. First off, glad that we have, the raises that have been put in the budget with the longevity pay and the laterals, because that's awful important too, especially to attracting new officers. The only downside is to the budget is, once again, we're pumping money into the building across the street instead of our public safety. The last fire station that was built in the city of Georgetown was 1996. Robert Bruin, sitting on the back row, was the fire chief then. So in 28 years, how much has the city of Georgetown grown? We need to move on. We're looking at one fire station when technically we're looking at 3 fire stations, depending upon where they're placed. We have businesses, parks, schools, houses that are outside of the 4-minute response zone. Where do we draw the line on public safety versus a building that could have waited for a while? Glad that we did a proclamation for the National Police Week. Would have liked to have seen some of the council members there, but I understand that's, doesn't always get to happen. So the next thing, where are we on our impact fee study? When will it be coming to council?
Go ahead.
I can get a report on that too at the next meeting. We have received some drafts and they're being reviewed at the department level.
Okay. And then one last thing is, I know that we need the restrooms for the youth football field up at Marshall Field. One thing that we need to do, I know we've got a grant writer that is about to hit the ground running. One thing we need to do is refile the grant for the lights at Marshall Field #1. The wooden posts up there are in terrible shape, and I would hate for one of the lights to fall and potentially hurt someone, be it the spectator in the crowd or fall onto the field. We need to really look at that. So when our grant writer hits the ground, if we could get them hooked up with Cortland Ledsma with Parks and Rec and get that grant refiled as soon as we can, and that grant money could hopefully fix those lights and also help improve, because those girls are out there quite a bit every weekend and at night too. So that's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Allen.
I'm going to echo some of Todd's comments about the fire station. We definitely have to get that back open for discussion. If not, we're going to continue to get behind. And our city continues to grow, subdivisions continue to expand, and with the wastewater treatment plant 1 coming online first quarter of next year, we're going to see additional growth. So the need is just going to continue to grow as well. So let's get the conversation going back on fire stations. The brick campaign, Mr. Hightower, in terms of, I think that program is about $250,000 to remove those bricks, put down some concrete, some sand, and put the bricks back in place.
Yeah, that's a engineer's estimate.
Sorry, this is council comment.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay, well, here's my comment. I think that program's about $250,000, is somewhere around that ballpark. I'd like to request that we look at some other options. One option may be to, and I have a brick there as well, and I know a lot of people do, but one option may be to remove the bricks and just put down concrete, and then take those bricks and create some memorial wall or something downtown so that all the bricks are in one location. My concern is that if we fix it, it may deteriorate again. We're in the same shape or condition that it's in currently. So I'd like to request that we look at some other options from a cost analysis that may be beneficial. The opioid funding dollars, just had a question about how they're being used.
I can answer that. Yeah, most of that funding we use, like with Corey Council, that's how we pay his salary for the money we're pulling out for that. And he was also responsible for having the Ready, Scott County Ready program, which the state, which is only there's 10 of them in the state that has that. So that money is really used for that purpose there, so mainly for that.
Okay, how much was that funding?
Stacy pulled the numbers on what we've received and what we've expended on Corey. I was waiting on a little bit of information on one of the new settlements that y'all voted on the other night, but I will send out to the council total monies that we've received and how much we've expended and what is left remaining to spend to date.
Okay, and then the net device, did you guys have any conversation with those?
I have not had that, looked at that, but I will continue to look at that. Okay? I was working with the budget and so on.
No, Mayor, that's the one you asked me to contact them about, and so they are willing to come in August or September.
That's correct. That's the one we looked at, yes.
Yep.
The grant writer, can the grant writer come and just let us know who we're working with and just introduce themselves?
We will get her so you can be introduced to
That'd be good.
formally, yes.
And thank you to the, Stacy, still looking for some information in terms of the expenses for this year. I know you said that they were down, and CRES you think is down as well, but that's probably going to come back up at some time. I'm not looking for a comment here. I'm just making a comment. So, and my concern there is if our expenses are down this year because of we need to understand why they're down, because if they bounce back up, I know this year we're looking at a surplus of about $650,000, but we may not see that surplus in the future if some of the things that are down now pop back up. So just looking for that. And I know Ms. Clark will be providing something. Thank you. And to the city clerk, thank you for your words tonight. You had a whole lot on your plate, and there's a lot of reading, so thank you for your time. That's all, Mayor. Oh, one other thing. So I'm like Columbo. Tomorrow is the last day to vote. Please, 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 everyone make sure you vote no later than tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Brent.
Well, I'm not going to echo, but I do everything that Councilman Stone said, and Alan, I'm pretty much on board with that. I'm not really with the budget right now. I think I'm going to have a meeting with the CAO and the mayor here with some of my concerns, because I'm very much for getting a new fire station, getting a fire inspector and different things for the fire department. That's a concern of mine because the fires that they had a week or so ago, the apartment buildings and people being displaced, I mean, I think that we definitely need to look into that, and that should be a capital project and figure out. I'd like to know, too, about the nonprofits that we, fund. I'd like to know if we can get some kind of reports to see where some of this money goes to. Because, I mean, we don't necessarily have to give. I mean, we give, but if we don't have to give, we don't, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we cut it down some or whatever and get some money to fund something that is needed right now. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I said, I am going to be meeting with the CAO and the mayor because I have some issues with the budget right now myself, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Hampton.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm not, there's only 5 of us here tonight. And, the fourth comment about the fire station, I agree with it. And, once we get through this budget, we really need to start addressing it as soon as possible. Not only what it's going to cost, location, and, just, how to pay for it and different things like that. Just one other thing. Saturday, I was out to dinner with my family and some friends, and we had a very good friend that had a serious medical event, and luckily there was a nurse there who was able to do chest compressions and revived him. And I just want to commend the EMS and the fire department on their response time, how quick they were in getting there. It was really impressive, and everybody in the restaurant commented about how it went. So I just want to express that and openly, say that as myself to and to this friend, we thank you. So that's it.
Mr. Showalter.
My better judgment is telling me to bite my tongue tonight, so I'm going to reserve my comment at the present time. Disappointed, frustrated, and I think I probably ought to leave it at that, but I want to hold back for the time being.
One thing I wanted to bring to council before we close out tonight, this is, I think, the first responders or EMS, I think week is this week, and we are working on a joint proclamation with the county to have something put up for them this week. Okay, so we'll have that, and once we get that information of what date we're going to do that, we'll let council know about when we want to do that. Okay? If there's no other further business to be brought before this council, this meeting is adjourned. This is yours.
I'm coming.